Welcome, everybody, and welcome to Stefan Golby. And if I'd like to welcome everybody and ask Stefan if he could tell us a little bit about himself and about this new pop-up website that we have on Bainbridge.
Absolutely. So I'll pop it up on screen here because visual aids are always useful. There's a little spinny thing. I'm sure it's going to take a sec. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see the general store now, which is a lot better than my face. So the idea of the general store came out of a couple of things I was involved with earlier this year. So just through my work with Pegasus, obviously we talked to a lot of people in the community, so it was kind of an eye into a lot of the problems the businesses were increasingly facing as the year went on. One of them being that, for want of a better term, we have a lot of great businesses on the island that perhaps were not as great digitally as they were in real life, which hadn't been that big of a deal, but became a bigger and bigger deal as you could go out less and less. So the basic idea behind the general store is it creates an overlay on everybody's existing stores that lets you browse the island much more easily, let you find all the different places that sell a particular thing you're looking for, or let you find new kinds of vendors that sell the kinds of things you like to buy, but here on the island that maybe you had no idea because they operate out of a garage down a driveway somewhere in Manzanita Bay, as much as a brick and mortar store on Winslow Way. So that's kind of the general set. I mean, for anybody that hasn't seen it, I can scroll around a bit, but I mean, it's a store. That's kind of the point. It looks like anything else you've used. There's a bit of a blurb about Bainbridge, and then it's simply into, you can go by the popular stuff. You can pick a section. If we jump in here to food and drink, you can see there's 40 different things to choose from in here. Everything leads with which store or maker or vendor is actually the one selling the product. So if we just pick an easy example and go through here to Bonbon, so you can get their fudge. The only way that this isn't really a regular store is that where usually you would expect to click a button and add it to the cart and buy it, in this case, what happens is it goes over to the website of the individual business and to that product page on their site, and then Bonbons is a little slow today. And then you add it to their cart and check out with them. That was feedback we got from a lot of the vendors, that really they didn't want another inventory system to mess with and have somebody else taking funds potentially on their behalf and then distributing them, and then how do you do returns and what happens with delivery and so on and so forth. So this ended up being a light version of it. And really the idea of it is it just gives you lots of different ways to browse all the stuff there is on the island. This initial stage was funded through the Rotary. The only real limitation of where we're at right now is that it's limited to 200 products, just in terms of the cost of onboarding. Now, there will then be a second stage. Originally, this was envisioned as being funded through the city via an RFP, but the city wheels are moving rather slowly right now. So something that went under discussion, I think initially in August or September, still hasn't got to the stage where they can actually ask for proposals. So it may well be that this dovetails with that, but for now it's up and it's been here to help local businesses as well as local shoppers find stuff. So the final blurb from me, and then I'll shush and take questions. So it's been up about 10 days. We've had about 4,000 visitors to the site, and just over 1,000 of those have actually ended up clicking through to exit to a local vendor to actually buy the thing. So essentially 25% of the visitors are actually exiting to buy something, which industry standard for this kind of site should be more like 3 to 5%. So no surprises there. We have an engaged community and some outstanding local sellers. So, you know, I'm not shocked that it's above the industry average, but I'm happy that it's sort of as vibrant as it is. There's about 70 different stores represented so far.
So Stefan, what is the URL? So if we wanted to go on it, do we put up in Bainbridge Island General Store?
Yeah, exactly, .com.
Okay.
We tried to make this as easy as possible wherever possible.
And so who is going to pay for this website right now? Is the Rotary still helping you?
So the Rotary have covered an initial 90-day runtime, but that also covers the sort of infrastructure costs, the hosting and the things that are required to keep it online for the full first year. So the contract for this project, which is right now with me, but at the end of the 3 months, these will become owned by either one of the Chamber, Downtown Association, Visit Bainbridge, or Rotary, or a new non-profit or public benefit corporation, I should say, not non-profit, because you can't be a non-profit store. We can, but it's complicated. It's explained to me. But regardless, it will become a public resource. So in terms of who's paying for it, there'll be choices, right? You could charge the businesses to be on it, like an annual fee. That's not necessarily my #1 choice, but you could, and make it self-sustaining that way. It could be something that any of those entities fund as a community resource as well. So I mean, really, you know, honestly, this got greenlit the night before Thanksgiving, and it launched on December the 4th. So wow. It's been, you know, and we're still obviously onboarding new products and new companies every day right now. So I sort of asked for those structural things to be deferred until after the new year. There'd still be 6 weeks to sort that out. But for now, it's just about getting it up and getting it rolling. And then there's actually a sister site as well, which we can talk about in a minute. But let's keep it here so anyone can ask any questions about this.
So how does a vendor, so a vendor needs a website really prior to?
Yes, that's the limitation of this initial stage, is it's just here to amplify vendors that already have a website and a way to sell online. Now, it doesn't have to be on their own website. It could be on Etsy. It could be on anything. But you have to have essentially an individual page with a product on it that we can link to.
Yeah.
Later on, we'll help build stuff. But for now, again, at that kind of notice, it was really just, you know, try and help shine a spotlight on what there already is one way or another.
And Stefan, can you tell me about delivery? Because some of us aren't going into stores. So say Bonbon, let's just pick Bonbon. By buying the candy, will they deliver it to you? How do you get it?
So right now that's vendor specific, right? And you'll find a lot of them do, whether it's they drop stuff off on their way home from work each night, or they have contracted with Island Bite or Pack Westy, or there are several organizations on the island that you know, Pack Westy does all of TNC's deliveries, for example. And then, you know, Island Bite has been doing deliveries for 20-some different restaurants on the island.
Yeah.
So for right now, honestly, it's just you go through to the vendor and the majority will do delivery and you'll get it from them. We are talking with all those guys about an overall delivery service that might arch over this. But I mean, honestly, part of my vision for this is that you should be able to order, let's say, up until 1 o'clock and get it that day. It's a local delivery, right? And the other part of local delivery I like a lot is, you know, it doesn't matter what you buy from Amazon, it's going in a box and maybe having packaging around it. And that's great, and you get it and it's safe, but there's a box and some packaging. Whereas if it's local delivery, depending on what the item is, in some cases it can just be picked up as is and brought to you. And in others, it can go into delivery bins or whatever else that are more easily recycled and reusable.
Yeah. And we can and you can deliver wine. Do you have to prove you're over? Well, I'm sure that's a
welcome
piece of
to all the reasons why this isn't having full delivery at launch. But yeah, that's a real issue, because the responsibility for providing liquor legally would fall with the delivery company. They'd have to be licensed to do alcohol delivery, which is why, apart from anything else, the wineries and you know, those kind of businesses on the island do their own delivery, because it's challenging to solve someone.
Yeah. And so what if we know somebody who we think would like to join, how do they do that? Is there something on the website, or do they contact you directly?
So this is at the bottom of every single page in big capital letters, but hopefully that is a simple enough system. So essentially they would just click to join here. It'll bring you to a new page. Oh, apparently it's my internet that's slow. And there's essentially just a form here to fill out, you know, that sort of provides the details of your business that are public facing. And then you can provide the details of the specific items you want listed in the store. And then at the end, there's just sort of private contact info, or social media, and then private contact info, so that we can be in touch with the vendors if their photo's not big enough or whatever. But it's really that simple. And you know, because we've had 70 some businesses fill this form out now, and the consensus is it takes about 10 or 15 minutes to fill it out.
And so would a store know that their order came from via this website? Is there a way for them to realize that?
They will, if they know their way around Google Analytics, and they can look at where that click or that visitor was acquired from. For me, on the back end, I can see literally that somebody left the general store by clicking, you know, the buy button for the bonbon fudge, but that's where my insight ends. So I can say, hey, you know, Diane and Cheryl, we know that 55 people this month clicked from the general store through to you. You know the products you have in the general store that line up. Are you seeing bumps? I mean, it's just anecdotally, but I know that Kitty Mew has sold $350 worth of stuff in the first week that's directly they're attributing to coming from the general store. And Plum sold 25 pairs of Japanese super thick, comfy comfort socks that somebody literally walked in and was like, I had no idea you sold this stuff. I saw it on the general store. I'd like to buy every pair you have to give out as presents, please.
So yes, so it's in some ways it's a shame that they couldn't give you 0.5% or something, so to help you run the website. Is that an option?
Yeah, that is another way it could go. But you're going to end up with a centralized marketplace one way or another, where the transactions actually take place on the general store. And then that poses distribution of funds issues. Nothing that's insurmountable, but for right now, especially with time being as much of the essence as it is, the point was make this something that no one really has to think about. It's kind of a no-brainer. It's just free incoming traffic, basically.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions that they would like to ask Stefan?
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
How do we get hold of you, or how do we make connection?
I've already made that shadowy figure behind the throne reference, and that's where I'd like to. No. There's a contact button at the bottom of every page on the website as well, and so I'm checking that. It's not just me, I should say. There's a lovely lady called Anna Short who has run the e-commerce for Church Mouse for the last couple of years, so she's very experienced in this, and she's the day-to-day manager of the store. And then I have a couple of other local college kids helping with this. And then I should say that it was kind of developed, a lot of this, with Natalie Rodriguez, who runs Tour Bainbridge and is also the secretary of the Downtown Association. So because she'd been sort of thinking of an idea like this, we both ended up on the city's ad hoc committee for helping businesses during COVID. And so, a lot of this came out of that. I said it also came out of the, running the Bainbridge Strong campaign. If you guys were familiar with that, basically buy a t-shirt and support a local business. So we had about 65 businesses in the end signed up to be part of that. And so obviously I was talking with them. So the general store seemed like a logical next step for that. The only real drawback with the general store is obviously it's only specifically there to help retailers and creators of products. So yes, not to be too mysterious, there is another site that we'll get to later that's supposed to widen the help to everybody.
Well, the Senior Center was very grateful for being able to participate in the Bainbridge Strong campaign. And that was easy to do because obviously you had the sweatshirts, and all we had to do was encourage people to name us as a possible charitable recipient. But as I noted in the chat, the response we got on Facebook when we posted that we were going to have a conversation with you was overwhelmingly enthusiastic. So I'm hoping that you're seeing the word of mouth spread about the general store.
We are, and obviously this is a honeymoon period, but for so far so good. But yes, I mean look, the word of mouth is big, and really there were lots of ways this could have gone, and there still may be plans to bring in outside people to do stuff, and that's all fine. But my position on this is it's not really about the website. It is. The website has to be of a base level of competency and has to work properly. But these things will live or die on whether they embed and are useful to the community or not. So if you go to the store and you don't discover that, oh, you can buy jigsaws from somebody you didn't know you could buy jigsaws from, or you had no idea that there were this many places that did whatever. Now, again, there's only 70 vendors on there so far, and that will widen. But I hope it makes things easier, right? I mean, I think so many people have a support for shopping local, but then they open Amazon and 4 seconds later they've bought something and, oh crap, I forgot to buy local. And this is not intended to replace Amazon for everything. But at the same time, I want it to be as easy to buy local through this as it is for Amazon or any other sort of full-on e-commerce platform, right? We're just trying to level the playing field for our guys, and make it easier to shop, frankly. I mean, if a lovely Sunday afternoon was wandering up and down Winslow or, Linwood or Rolling Bay or wherever, that's great, but that ain't happening very much in the immediate future. So there's that immediate help. And then as we go forward beyond then, hopefully it just seamlessly integrates with the real world stuff. Like one of the things that's missing from this that I would like to bring in the new year is sort of a real world map that goes along with the digital store, so that it's, you can get all this stuff online, but also for most of these, I mean, obviously if you're making jewelry in your garage and selling it through Etsy, maybe you don't want too many people knocking on the garage door every day. But for those who do have a brick and mortar store, in town, yes, absolutely. And ideally for me, you buy something through the store, maybe you're not from here, and then when you come to the area, you're going to want to go to the place and actually see the real deal. I know for us at Pegasus, that's a big part of it. It almost blows my mind, but it's also really cool that we have people coming to the island just to go to Pegasus, and some of them have come from Hong Kong or from crazy places, and they're doing like a coffee pilgrimage to Seattle, and Pegasus is on their sort of 5 stops of the history of coffee, which, kind of gratifying and very fun. But we should be able to do that for multiple businesses on this island. I mean, there are people that go to the factory up on Day Road for Sage and Far Bank, make their fishing pilgrimage to the place where the rods come from. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so is Sage on this? Because Sage rods are kind of worldwide known for fly fishing.
Yeah, they are not on this, I will say, because the direct model. I mean, I have another chat with Scott tomorrow, and I had one with him this morning. But you know, I guess my point is, I don't want it to be perceived that the general store is supposed to replace anything. It's supposed to support everything, and you know, it's starting with what it is because this is the easiest way to start. But ultimately, I'd love to see it be a platform that blends online and real world shopping. That's its intention.
And may I ask you, what about services on the island? I mean, places like Blodell and Islandwood and visit Bainbridge.
Well, what an interesting question. If only there was a sister site to the general store that perhaps addressed that kind of thing. So this was always envisioned as honestly a three-legged animal. The first being the general store, the second being a general information site for the island, which, hello, Bainbridge. And then the third would be actually an education platform that helps businesses get online and do business online and connect with local experts who can help with that, whether it's through workshops or hiring them, or you know, you learning through online how to do it for yourself. So we're getting down the road, and these are basic things. So for Hello Bainbridge, it's intended to be kind of a list of lists, right? There are a lot of organizations on the island that do a great job of covering something. You know, might be. I mean, arts and crafts. Bainbridge Arts and Crafts has a fantastic A to Z of all the working artists on the island. So it's like 100 and, I don't know, 50, 170 on their list, and I'm sure it's not complete. But just getting people to that list is kind of the point of this. So that if you don't know anything about Bainbridge, you don't have to know that there's Visit Bainbridge and there's Destination Bainbridge for certain things. Or that, yeah, there's Barn, but there are a bunch of other studios that also are open to you as an artisan or an artist. So that's what this is designed to kind of pull together. Now, in making this, I couldn't find a good list of all the education opportunities available, so I had to make one. The same with healthcare. There were some that covered bits and not others. And I'm sure as we get the word out more about Hello Bainbridge, there's going to be a bunch of people contributing that, oh, you're missing this and it should have that, and, you know, so on and so forth. But I mean, I don't, the intention isn't for this to be the be all and end all directory of the island, but it's to take you to the people who do know the individual bits and are on top of that. But you know, so it links to chamber listings of businesses, and it links to all kinds of stuff. You know, I mean, event calendars, for example, when I was talking to people, they were like, oh, well, there's this new Artopolis calendar with art and humanities is put together. Oh, good, I've managed to break it. When I do make sites, I like to have fun with the 404 error pages. So there you go. Welcome to the 404 error page for Hello Bainbridge.
I love this picture.
Still my favorite Bainbridge thing is Michael Douglas jumping onto the car deck of the ferry as he's a bit late in disclosure and everybody applauding him. So it's a lovely Hollywood screen version of actual life on Bainbridge, but whatever. But so it's basically essentially each one of these pages, and this just went up yesterday, is it that they're essentially designed to be rabbit holes for you to go down. And if that's your interest, here are 7 more rabbit holes for you to keep going down and down and down until you either find what you're looking for or you're just so sleepy you have to go to bed because you've been on your screen for 4 hours. Either way. So in terms of your question about services and stuff, they're in here. I mean, the services are all broken down, like home services, financial, business, and then also the public services, what you can go get from the city, etc., etc. You you know, there are real estate listings in here, which then as I started talking to the realtors, it was like, well, we've got to have a listing of the brokers. And I was like, there's nothing on earth that could make me list individual brokers and have people complain, but we can have the brokerage listed. So, you know, so basically you get Bainbridge Island real estate listings, which they pulled together, and Bainbridge Island Home Source, a specific listing sites. You know, you get the national ones at Realtor and Redfin, and then you get down into all the major brokerages on the island. So, you know, if you don't know anything about that, it can get you to where you need to go. And if you know something about it, well, here are some resources. Maybe, you know, maybe you check Redfin, but you don't check Realtor, or you don't check the local listings that sometimes have different listings up quicker. You know, a lot of I've tried to avoid Facebook groups where I can, but there are definitely some that are that should be there. Bainbridge Islanders is there under daily news, even though it warns you that there is perhaps more opinion than news, but there is valuable, you know, up to date news. And Nixle is on there as well as the Review and the Kitsap Sun or Bainbridge Islander. So it's just the idea is, and look, I moved to the island the day before yesterday, 5.5 years ago, and I'm well aware of that. So a chunk of this is sort of things that took me a year to work out they existed, trying to just make it easy to stumble across quickly. You know, I mean, the arts thing is particularly convoluted, and it took me a long time to understand that the studio tour was separate from the art walk, that was separate from arts and humanities, that was separate from arts and craft, that was separate from barn. It was, and there's still a couple more I should be listing, you know, just to get into it.
Stefan Reed posted in the chat column that you should check out the Bainbridge resource directory.org, which is a group of resources put together by nonprofits on the island.
So that is the first thing in the section Island Resources. That is the first thing you will find, because I love me the bird. You guys have done stellar work creating that, and that's exactly why this doesn't attempt to reinvent that wheel, right? Because that already exists. So this just, and you know, I may even be crediting who put that together predominantly in the picture for that section. Who would ever know? But that's sort of the point, right? Is to steer people to that. And if that's what you're looking for, let's get them there as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So can you get to Hello? Can you get to Hello Bainbridge from the site, the shopping site?
So say hello to Bainbridge right at the top of every page. Yes. Here. We'll take you straight there. And then at Hello Bainbridge, shop at the general stores in the exact same spot. So you can toggle back and forth. Also, on obviously shop itself, one of the first option is to go to the general store. And when you're on the general store, this plus more actually, those are all pages at Hello Bainbridge.
I am amazed at the work you've done. It must have taken you a long time, but this resource would be used. I can see how well it will be used by everybody. We need just to get it out into the community to advertise it. And I don't quite know how you can, you need a couple of comments on Facebook, Bainbridge Islanders, or maybe next door to tell everyone where to go.
Well, so we also do have a social media marketing budget. It's just that we're not going to use that for Hello Bainbridge until after Christmas.
Okay.
Right? The initial push here is all general store focused. Really, mostly I wanted Hello Bainbridge up soon thereafter, is because it will end up being a search engine monster, frankly, because it's got all these pages linking to all these other things. And hopefully, you know, as you say, as more people go to it and as more entities link back to it, it'll become, in Google's eyes, an important site for the island, which will make it come up in search more.
So Judy has said in the comment section, this presentation was so interesting. Stefan, you have done a marvelous job putting the site together. I am so excited about visiting it as soon as this meeting is over, and plan to tell everyone I know about it. And I can echo Judy too. I mean, I didn't realize the length and breadth of it, so I think it will be a really useful public tool that, as knowledge goes further, that will be used more.